So hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel City Podcast. This week's episode's a very special episode. We have Mhairi Black MP on the show. It was an absolute privilege to have Mhairi come in to the studio, an Air Coach studio, but basically my flat, a couple of weeks back, and we had an amazing conversation. We covered theory versus reality in relation to politics, the Gender Recognition Act, Universal Credit, WASPy women, and why Scotland needs full control of its laws and resources. I mean, I'm going to let this podcast speak for itself. Both me and Matt were overwhelmed with gratitude towards Mhairi for coming in. We'd sent her an email, I think about a year ago, and we got something back. We were absolutely buzzing. I just want to give a big massive shout out to Darren McGarvey, or Loki, the Scottish rapper. He seemed to do like a sort of whistle-stop tour of podcasts in Glasgow last week, and he did 3 that I listened to. Not only did he do our own Rebel City, but he did Drunk Therapy and Blethered, and I listened to all 3 podcasts, and it's testament to the guy that all 3 were highly engaging, very different, and I mean, again, like, I'm eternally grateful to Darren for coming in, same as we are to Mhairi. And also Graham Wilson, GW Undrunk. What a podcast that was, an amazing story on addiction and recovery and family. The podcast just continues to get bigger and bigger every week with every episode, and I can't be more thankful to everybody who's liking, sharing, clicking, whatever you're doing, engaging with the podcast. Thank you very much. More of the same coming up as we go towards Christmas and into Q4. But without further ado, here's the episode with Mhairi. So hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel City Podcast. This week's guest, we're extremely privileged to have Mhairi Black MP. How's it going, Mhairi?
Aye, not bad.
Not bad.
I've got water now, I'm happy.
Happy. Usually at this point what we would normally do is we would get people to just explain who they are and what they're about, but I don't think we need to. Yeah. You need any introduction.
Don't know if that's a bad thing.
You don't already know who Mhairi is. No, I'd probably know the podcast for you.
Definitely a good thing, but so like Matt was wanting to ask a specific sort of question.
I'm a long-term, lifelong politics geek. It's my weakness. I just need to deal with it. And reading up before this, I got the impression that I did a kind of similar sort of politics course to you. Mm-hmm. Mine was called like party and cabinet politics, and it was all ins and outs of the actual operating of day-to-day stuff. And I'm wondering, like, you were like actively still a student when you first went to Westminster. Like, for me, that's like probably the ultimate clash of like theory versus reality. Like, what was that actually like?
It was a bit bizarre, really, because I think when I get elected, I still had one more exam to do, because I mind having to ask for time off to go and do the other exams. So I remember sitting in the House of Commons library, because we didn't have any offices or anything at that point. And I sat in the library and I was like, right, let's get the books out. You've got 2 hours just to focus on it. And after I'd read like the first paragraph, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. I'm sitting in this, oh God, and I'm writing about it. So that was weird, but it was more weird when I actually sat the exam. Because of course I walked in and like that, you could feel half of the room hated me and half of them really liked me. And I don't even know if it was my politics. They probably hated me because at that time of year, most students are pulling their hair out, trying to figure out what their job is. And then there's me for it to got myself sorted or these things.
Surely they just wrote a first class honours degree and just been like, there you go, achieved the goal.
You've completed it, mate.
I know. But to be honest, my degree's still the thing that I'm proudest of. Yeah. Because that was mine, if you know what I mean. It was, I got myself into it because Strathclyde actually rejected me.
All right.
Because I applied for uni the year after they hiked up all the tuition fees. Right. So all the entry marks and went to like straight 4 A's. So I ended up only getting 3 A's. So,
Worked out all right.
I know. It worked out all right eventually.
Worked out all right.
I gave up my summer and get into Glasgow. And ended up with a degree, so I'm happy with that.
Well, that's it. It must have been surreal, like, reading about these types of things for like 3 and a bit years or 4 years, and then all of a sudden you're just like thrusted into the middle of it and then sitting there with...
Well, to be honest, because the referendum was happening while I was a student, I think subconsciously I was already living in it, because it was everything to do with the referendum that shaped my politics as I am now, and how I handle things and how I view things. So it kind of all happened without me even noticing, if that makes sense. I was too busy just
You were just
campaigning.
in there.
I was just in about it, and it wasn't until I get elected and took the time to step back and go, this has been wild. This is mental.
How did this happen?
So
That's
an
crazy, man.
experience.
Do you think, so you've been re-elected once, is that right? One of the big things that I'm interested in is how, like, the internet, and specifically things like Cambridge Analytica, Russian bots, the way that sort of like Trump has sort of changed politics. Like, have you noticed like that there's a difference in the campaigning now that you have to sort of adjust, or is it the same, a very sort of similar sort of thing?
Well, it's similar in some senses, but very different in how it presents itself, I think, because like that Donald Trump has changed things, but the sort of crap that he's spouting is nothing new.
No.
I mean, we've seen this in periods of history all through time. And like that, when you see a shift to the right, it's usually comes after there's financial issue and people are struggling, and that's where you start getting scapegoats, and it becomes easy to confuse things and convolute it. And that's what we're living through right now. And it is horrific.
Not just in America either.
And where we have, I hate using the term because he came up with it, but fake news, right?
Because it does exist.
It's a real thing.
Yeah,
and I hate it, but it is a real thing.
This is a problem with it, is that he's using something that actually exists to sort of bat away facts.
Yes.
So like journalism has really changed since Trump in America, and I think they're working overtime to try and sort of like claw back the trust of people. But this guy's just now got this soundbite that he can just use, even if it is facts. I mean, there was a video of a Hispanic woman at a Trump campaign a week ago, and the reporter for Vice said to her, well, Trump said this. And she was like, no, it's fake news. They went and got a video, showed her it on the monitor, and she still went, that didn't happen, that's fake.
It's how you meant to fight that?
You can't fight it.
I think it's something that does get weaponised against, particularly, well, in my experience, SNP, MSPs and MPs, is the use of social media to dig you out for no doing something about something that isn't devolved at the Scottish Parliament, or is devolved at the Scottish Parliament, but they're digging out a Westminster MP. So a lot of that is like, for me, that falls into the fake news category where there's people consciously going, I actually know that Mhairi can't do anything about this, but I'm going to tag her here because my 10,000 followers will just retweet the shit out of this.
Totally.
And then, you know, the lie gets out there faster than the fact.
That
you know what I mean?
That literally happened to me. When was that? It was during the RAH in my constituency, the children's ward, the health board were wanting to reallocate it and change it all, and that became Mhairi Black wants to single-handedly close a children's ward, and I'm like, that's not even in my remit. And then when I did try to help, it ended up just becoming a nightmare trying to, because like that you were getting this crap from opposition parties in this case, but you're sitting there going, that's not how things work. Do you know how a health board functions? I can't just go in and say, this is what's happening and override it.
I think there'd be probably times as well that if you were to actually go and get involved in something that was out with your remit or out with your purview, like you run the risk of turning something that's maybe potentially quite low key in the grand scheme of things into a circus. But you also can't win because the minute you step outside what is your remit, you're also going to get tagged for.
And
hold on a minute, that's not your job.
That's where I think that people of all different political opinions, I think everybody has to take some time to self-reflect, whether it be reflecting on how your movement or your political party is vulnerable to all of these kind of things, but also appreciating, do we contribute to that kind of crap because quite often I see yes accounts sharing things when I'm going, that's just
It's just not true.
Yeah.
that's not true. And I feel like I'm letting them down because there's our supporters who don't fully
I think the one this week is
appreciate things.
the secret Westminster survey that has independence at like 99%, and like they're keeping it under, and you're like, come on, guys,
Keep 'em
like,
going, keep 'em going.
It's like Westminster's sitting on this, and you're like,
But the flip side to that,
aye.
though, is that with the way that Westminster works, it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
well, true,
that
aye.
they do, you know, so that's how these things end up being given credibility because we know that these dirty tricks
Aye.
happen.
Yeah.
So it's a case of having the kind of, whether it's personal judgment or whatever, I don't know, but taking the time to be a bit sensible and think, right, what is the likelihood of this really happening? And if you understand the inner workings of an institution or how things work day to day, if you're thinking, actually, no, I can see that happening, and then getting away with that, right, no, I will dig a wee bit deeper. But frankly, if you're sitting on Twitter 15 hours a day, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're...
So this is quite a dangerous thing, because I was listening to a couple of people talk about this, and were saying that if you shouldn't really base your opinion on the world, either socially or politically, based on Twitter. Like,
Of course not.
disconnect, because the vast majority of people that I meet day to day are really nice people. They're not like screaming lunatics. But if you were just to insulate yourself in your Twitter feed
Yeah.
and engage with people that are
When you leave the
outraged,
house.
so it doesn't actually reflect real
Aye.
life.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's, I mean, my pal put it perfectly, where he says that the people not on Twitter don't understand how important Twitter is, and the people who are on Twitter think it's more important than it is.
Yeah.
And that's because exactly what you're saying, Twitter's not reflective of the general public.
yeah,
But with how our world's changing and how media's changing and reporting's changing, Twitter's where journalists get all their stuff from.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, you literally see it at a really horribly basic level.
Yeah.
But we see it as football fans, where you see somebody that you know tweet something and it's almost like a joke.
Yeah.
And then the Sun are reporting
Yep.
it, and you're like,
Yeah.
they've literally just lifted that for that
Yep.
guy's Twitter feed,
Aye.
which I think is very, very dangerous. Like,
It's depressing, but I also appreciate that then is an issue that ties into the bigger issue of journalism and how
Yeah.
it's changing.
Absolutely.
So, like with all things in politics, there's no one fix to one problem because all the problems are linked. You've got to take a step back and almost do galaxy view and go, right.
I think what's particularly like worrying about that type of thing is that Trump came up with policy based on retweets.
Yeah.
So Build a Wall was
Aye.
actually a soundbite that he put out on
Yep.
Twitter at like 4 a.m, and it got 250k retweets
Yeah.
within an hour, and they deleted it. And then the next
That was
day,
his
at his
policy.
next rally, it was
Yep.
Build a Wall. And I think that's really dangerous because it sets a sort of precedent for politicians to go, right, what's my most popular tweet? That's my message.
Aye.
And it's like, again, it doesn't reflect real
Aye,
life. Like,
completely.
especially when you've got a million Russian bots following you or whatever. I think this is where like you're saying, people need to take a step back here and just realise that they are the real people. Like,
Aye.
people are outraged at
Yeah.
X, Y, and
It's
Z.
one person with 20 accounts posting the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
Just
Aye.
shit posting people.
But I also think that online and with Twitter especially, there's sometimes a generational divide because folk who've grown up with Twitter kind of get how it works.
Yep.
Whereas I've seen a few times where folk have just got the complete wrong end of the stick, and it's you can tell it's like you've just picked this up as though it's a newspaper. This app, and it's
Yeah.
not. It is, you know.
I think as well, like it's like that thing when you have a conversation with like a partner or a text message. I go, I say something and she'll be like, "What are you on about?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I said the most inane thing possible. That I was just like, This is what's happening. How do you mean that? And you're like, there's a nuance that goes missing in text format. I mean, with 240 characters, you might be like, pure, this is like the greatest political thought I've ever had in my life. And you instantly get 2,000 people on your head going, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Like, and you're just like, what the hell? You know what I mean? So I think there is that kind of like lost in translation sometimes that people do get caught in. But at the same time, like, I think we all need to have a wee bit more responsibility for what we say. Like, I think a lot of and again, with your profile, you might encounter this a lot, and we have in recent weeks, like the anonymous accounts that are sometimes created
Yeah.
specifically to actually like come
Aye.
at you, and you're a bit like, what is going on in your life that's something you feel you need today? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, totally agree with you in terms of the issue, but I suppose from a personal point of view, it's a laugh sometimes.
well,
We get quite a lot of abuse, especially around the sort
Some
of
of it's
orange
really
walk stuff that we
creative.
did. And I think after
one
about
of them learned how to use PowerPoint, so fair play. You know what I mean? Like,
oh wait, aye. This is the other thing is the podcast has kind of like took off in the last few weeks. We've started to get emails with people sending us like conspiracy theories, going,
Yeah.
"You need to look at this because we're approaching sort of social issues that
Yeah.
affect people." And it's like, look here, you're like, no, I really that is a 2,000 word like
Yeah.
Microsoft Word document that I'm not going to read. As like a, I mean, I don't know if I hate the term, but as a millennial
Yeah.
and a generation of people that seem to be like struggling to cope with just sort of day to day, like how did you deal with the stress of being like the youngest MP? I mean, you get so much attention. I think at one point in time they were commenting on your lunch.
Oh, aye,
that you
I
get
know, that was
chips.
wild. Aye, when we first went in.
The sun
The thing
falling
was,
you about like
I
what
don't
you eating.
even really like chips. It was just there was nothing there that I liked.
there's a headline the more a Scots girl and not liking chips shocker.
Exactly.
That's it, you're not getting re-elected next time you don't
Aye.
like chips. But how do you cope with your own sort of stress? Like, we're big on talking to people about mental health issues,
Yeah.
and not just issues, but actual like mental health and positive mental health. So how do
Yeah.
you keep yourself sort of grounded under like extreme stress?
Well, to be honest, it's because of my support network, totally. I mean, my family and friends are just absolutely fantastic. And they're always the first to slag me. So it's, you know, it is good. And when I log on to Twitter, I don't see anything worse than anything they'd say to me
Yeah.
if it was called for. So that keeps me down to earth, because in terms of my personal life, no much has changed. You know, I still hang about with the same pals, still do the same thing, still go to the Fir Hill and everything like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I keep it in my head as it's a job. Now, I totally get how important that job is and what a privilege that job is, but it's a job. And if it ever got to the point where it's, you know, destroying my life, nah, it's not worth it. I'm not prepared to do that.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm just always been very straightforward, and by being that way since I got elected and not rising to all the Daily Mail crap when I first got down, I think it kind of also gave journalists a bit of a nudge and going, all right, she's not what we think she is.
Yeah.
Right, okay, right, I'm a wee bit interested.
Yeah.
And
What do
that's
you
why I
think-
want to interview
What do
me.
you think they thought? What was
Oh,
the
they
sort
were
of
they were
preconceptions?
expecting me to be wild, to just go down and be rude, swearing, trashing the place, caught steaming, all sorts. I mean, apparently I'm taking coke in the chamber these days,
Right.
so you know it's all of this stuff.
Because you'll be the only one doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a few of them do look a bit spaced out.
So, in terms of, you know, life since getting to Westminster, sort of post 2014, one of the arguments I made amongst mates was that when the SNP won the 56 seats for Westminster, that they had to basically, you know, respect the result of the referendum and go down and make a positive contribution
Yep.
to UK politics. And that meant for me actually engaging in stuff that was UK-wide issues. And pretty early doors, you got involved with the Waspy women.
Yeah.
My mum was actually affected by this. And
Same.
her 59th birthday, or, you know, no long after it, she'd been winding up for her last year and was told that she had another 6 to go.
Aye.
She's 2 through it and is now having her hip replaced. You know, so she's a home help. And see, to be honest with you, I completely get that the demographics of the population have been changing for a long period of time, that people are living longer and there is a higher quality of life, generally speaking, when, you know, compared
Yeah.
to history. So a change in pension age, pensionable ages, does make a level of sense in the terms of changing demographics. I think the reality that some jobs are so physical, like my mum,
Yeah.
who's been a home help for 20 years, or other jobs as well, you know. My dad was a railway shunter. He
Aye.
couldn't do that to 70.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Aye.
Like, sitting in an office, like somebody like me, you know, maybe, you know what I mean? If I get by the, you know, 57,
Yeah.
the average mortality rate for guys like me in Glasgow, you know, 70 would be a bonus. But, like, I'm not working to 70, there's no way, you know what I mean? So, like, was there a conscious choice on your part to be like, this is the one for me, or was it, How did it come about?
Well, again, it's more that I don't realise how much I'm in it until it's too late almost.
Yeah.
Because the first surgery I ever had and the first person that came through was a hospital woman. But at the time, we didn't realise that. She was just giving me all these pension letters. And I'm like, right, this makes no sense. Let me take this away and look at it. And when I did that, you start realising, oh, wait a second, this is
Yeah.
a problem. And then we realised, well, wait a second, this is a problem across the whole of the UK. This is wild. And started putting in, information requests, and we find out that the government didn't send letters until 14 years after the law had changed. And you're like, how? That's literally what happened with it. It was in 1995, they said, look, we're going to change things so that eventually men and women are retiring at the same age. So we'll start phasing that in. And the whole point was, or the study that was done, it argued that you have to give people 15 years warning, basically, before you change anything with pension so that they can prepare. So they did that in 1995. Didn't tell anybody. Basically, there was no campaigns, there was no letters went out, no nothing. So most folks just didn't know about this. So then what happened was in 2011, the coalition came in and they said, right, do you know what? This isn't going fast enough. They saw a quick saving. So they said, instead of letting that original 15-year timeline play out, they were going to take whatever was left of it and just condense it into 18 months. So that meant that you had a whole cohort of women who were like, well, hold on a second. You're only telling me now that I'm going to be working an extra 6 years. This is happening all over the UK, and it's one of those issues where they truly have no answer to it. They're just ignoring it. They're waiting on women to die.
That's scandalous.
Rather than pay their pensions. So it's one that is just a genuine battle. If you know
two
what I mean.
things that are the, or meant to be when it was founded, the sort of cornerstones of the welfare state were the NHS and pensions.
Yep.
That people would work all their lives and have the rug pulled under them at the last minute is disgusting. And I think it's maybe kind of indicative as well of some of the disconnect that we talk about when we talk about Westminster politics, is that I think when we're talking about your coping mechanisms and stuff, that you're actually stayed quite grounded because you see it as something that you do rather than something that you are.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people go to Westminster and being an MP becomes their identity.
Yes, completely.
And that must put you in a weird headspace where you feel like, you make these tough decisions, but you're doing it for a greater good. When in actual fact, how can punishing these women for a lifetime of contributing to the system ever be for a greater good? You know what I mean? Like, they should have phased it. They should have made the argument and said, look, here is the legitimate reason why we have to consider doing this.
Yeah.
But, we've made a mess of this. Let's phase it through. Let's work ways. Whereas they just went, nah, 6 years.
Aye, that's it. And we're not looking at it again. Simple. And they can do that. Like, we've had, I think it's now 14 debates or something. And we've had a couple of votes on it as well. And they're just like, nah, we're doing
the
it.
numbers.
Aye, so it's how depressing that institution is itself and how it still functions like that. That's even allowed to happen. But for me, that's where I see so many opportunities with
14
independence.
debates with nothing really changing.
Aye.
Must be,
See, try to write a speech for a debate that you've had 14 times. Honestly, what
I lose
am
my
I
shit
meant to
if I need to
say?
repeat myself to somebody twice.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
It's real, you're banging your head against a brick wall. And that's where it really gets under my skin, when you do get the really sanctimonious Tories who don't have a principled bone in their body. Because I can appreciate principled Conservatives, don't agree with them, but fair enough, it's a point of view. See folk that are just there because I'm an MP and I just do what I'm told, and no fiscal responsibility. Like, do you even know what that means? Have you had a look at what you've been doing to the economy for the last 10 years?
Yep.
So you can't have a genuine conversation with somebody who's not wanting to listen. And unfortunately, Parliament's filled with them.
just agenda.
Aye.
Agenda over substance every time.
The image that just comes into my head when I hear that is when Ian Duncan Smith cheered the universal credit thing.
Yep.
Where they did the living wage, but it wasn't a living wage.
There's a cracking big painting in Westminster, because there's some paintings that are something else, by the way.
Yeah.
Just weird. But there's this one that's massive, and it's the chamber, but it's just filled with monkeys, and I love it. It's just so bloody accurate. They're all jumping about in the chairs and everything. That's what
I
it's
can
like.
see it.
What is it like being there with people like? I mean, I've got a genuine distaste for guys like Rees Mogg.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy comes up in the podcast mode.
He's like something out of a Dickens novel.
Aye.
So
Yeah,
like,
my favourite. I've said this before in the podcast. My favourite story about him is when he got asked about his favourite Christmas gift growing up. And he said that his mum gave him a veil of ointment that was taken for Queen Victoria's coronation, and you're just like, your childhood must have been something else, mate. Like, fucking hell. But what is it like being there with people like that, like, and seeing them actually?
because there are some great parliamentarians out there. I know, obviously, Tony Benn is somebody that you've spoke about having a lot of respect for. Over the years, as much as I know there's been a wee bit of back and forth, I was a fan of Dennis Skinner.
Aye.
I know, obviously, there was the seating issues and stuff like that. I think that's the press again, but it's not to say that there's no some actual solid people doing, good careers and good work and all the rest of it, but it does seem that we're like drowned under the weight of like just cunts, basically. Like,
I'm not allowed to use that word anymore.
sorry, apologies.
But I think, from a personal point of view, when I first went down, for me it was more fascinating than it was, because like at one point I got invited to speak at Eton, and I was like, I want to do it. So I did it, and I would love to say it's out of, political differences and interest and stuff. It was really just so that when I was 50 and all this is done, I can go, mind that time I spoke at Eton. Having a pint or something. But
Like a trip to the zoo, looking through the glass at them like pure.
But when I did do it, it was actually fascinating because I was just talking to them honestly about my experience. They were genuinely listening, and the questions I got, I just remember thinking, oh my God, it's so innocent. Look at them. They have no idea about the real world.
Yeah.
Because their questions were just, like, I'm trying to think of an example.
Did anyone refer to you as Scotch? Because I would have fucking blew my nut. Like,
I can't remember. It was a long night though. It was a very long
Fair enough.
I tried to have a conversation with somebody where it's linked to this, where I was trying to say to them that you need to understand that somebody that's born in money, that's upper class, has got no idea what your life is like, and for you to expect them to know how it is to grow up in Glasgow or the west of Scotland and sort of relate to what you're saying it's unrealistic. Like you don't know what it's like to have a nanny for 23 years of your life and what type of person that produce, and we can see it and sort of go, wow, let's not do that ever again.
But we're not legislating against nannies,
Exactly.
I think that there is this sort of disconnection where working class or even sort of lower middle class people expect guys like Boris Johnson to know what it's like to be to grow up in a tenement. And it's like it will never have that perspective.
That's what I think that it's the way that Westminster politics works and what's the norm, because we've been it's been battered into us for years that Scotland's too wee, too poor, too everything. You can't have control over that. Just let us deal with it. So because of that, we've got an entire population who, whether they've realised it or not, have been subconsciously saying, "All right, no, it's those sort of guys. They're the ones that really know what they're doing." I've met Boris. He's not got a bloody clue what he's doing. Right?
He's only a human being.
When he walks about Parliament, I don't think he even knows where he's going. Half the time he's just bumbling about. I think that people sometimes need to remind themselves that politicians are people as well. And fundamentally, most folk can tell when somebody's lying to them or when somebody's not giving them the full truth.
Yep.
Now, sometimes in politics, you can argue that might be necessary, but more often than not, it's not necessary at all. Just answer the question.
You're going to talk national security, maybe.
So
but that's about it.
And how rare it is to find a Westminster politician that answers a question. And that's because the nature of the place just allows them. It's designed to allow people to, be vague and to be able to keep things back and make things more complicated than they need to be. Pensions is exactly one of them. Pensions should be an incredibly simple thing to solve because basically we need to wipe the slate clean and start again, because the problem has been that you've had these clowns getting elected every 5 years and going, right, here's what we're going to do, doing all these changes, and then 10 years down the line, whoever's left in government going, what the hell did you do that for? That was a stupid idea. So you then just create all these problems, and exactly what we're happening just now.
Bureaucracy sometimes, isn't it?
Do you think the political polarisation that we're seeing is like the last sort of death croaks of that type of like soundbite? Like, if they're asked a straight question now, people are wanting a straight answer.
Well, this is where it becomes nuanced though, because see, like me, when I was getting elected in 2015, I was talking about shaking up the establishment, giving that place a breath of fresh air, stuff like that. That's all stuff that Nigel Farage says as well.
A drain the swamp.
Which
So
makes
it's Trump
me,
as well.
which I was like, oh my God, that's my words coming out his face. What the hell? And that made me stop and really think. And I suppose that's where it's up to people to make sure that they're educated enough to catch out these con guys, these con artists. Because the minute you start to scrutinise them, it falls away.
Yeah.
This
It's like a house of
anti-established, it just falls away.
I just
It's
don't
easy to say the line.
understand how a guy like Farage or Rees-Mogg is even worse, and Boris have managed to convince people that they're like many of the people that they're. I'm like, what's the?
'Cause they go to a
use,
pub every now and then.
They use it for Trump as well. They call him the blue collar billionaire.
Yeah.
How the fuck can you be a blue collar?
Aye.
That guy started with $2 million loan for his dad.
Aye. His
dad
How is he
literally
blue
owned
collar?
Manhattan.
And apart from anything else, his history with money is awful.
It's
That guy
awful.
should never be in charge of a budget.
Absolutely
And
not.
yet-
It's crazy, but I don't understand how Nigel Farage, when he's standing there in his Berber coat with his skip hat, shouting about fox hunting with a pint and a fag, and people are like,
He's the guy.
he's the guy, that's it, he represents me.
Well, that's what I think, and this is just my personal opinion. I think that because the way that Westminster politics works is it wants people to be ignorant. It's deliberately really complicated and really dense.
Yep.
Now, Parliament has to be. You have to scrutinise legislation line by line properly,
Absolutely.
do committees and everything. But it's all the caveats in Westminster and all the things that are subject to your viewpoint as such. Because
How you then interpret
we don't
it,
even
how the
have,
law then
we
interprets
don't have a
it.
rule book for
Yeah.
Parliament. There is one book that was written in, oh Christ, I think it was like 16 something,
Right.
or it was way back, right? Erskine May it's called, and that's what the Speaker uses, but it's totally up to his, whatever
Totally,
he
aye.
thinks and whatever
That's why
his
he's so
perspective
popular
is.
with his own party then, aye.
Well, yeah, we've seen how that can play out. So because of that, people have been switched off to politics,
Yeah.
and they only take the 2-minute snippet that's on the news. They only listen to
Prestigious
that
archaic.
one line.
Yeah.
Aye.
And I think what happened in Scotland particularly was in 2014 we managed to sort of crack that disengagement, and suddenly folk were paying
Definitely.
attention to politics again. But that's where I think folk need direction, and that's what I think the
I think
SNP
this
should
is where
do.
he's run into the issues, or we've run into issues, both in a Scottish sense and a wider UK sense, is that we've tried to address really complex, really nuanced issues, as you say, with like binary questions.
Yep.
And that in itself is a pretty divisive way. I mean, you know, I get that there's a need for binary questions in certain respects, but I think there's also been a fact that where people instantly go, well, this is, I'm on this side, and then trenches are dug and people kind of get back out again. I think kind of trying to move on a wee bit for not too much away from Westminster, but we had a guest on last week who was a political actor, written a book about a political activist, Kath Duncan. We put it out as a part of, sort of Pride, obviously, it's Pride Month.
Yeah.
Last night you were in the House voting on
Northern Ireland.
Northern Irish marriage equality and abortion rights.
Yeah.
330 something to 99, I think it
Yes,
went
to
through, which is
99,
kind of
aye.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
But am I right in saying this is, and again, one of these like nuanced caveats is that this, because a lot of papers were celebrating it as marriage equality is now legal in Northern Ireland, but this is only if Stormont doesn't reform before September or something
that's,
like that.
when you actually read the motion, that's effectively what it says. But
The likelihood
the
of Stormont is
reason,
none.
and for SNP in particular, it was a tough one because
Yeah.
we've had a long-standing policy of not legislating for other countries.
Yep.
That's because, of course, we complain about
Aye,
it. So
we don't want it for us, so
But the reason why I was okay voting this time was I thought to myself, that is true, and I still do believe that. But Stormont's not had a government now for
Yeah.
3 years, and they don't look like they're getting one anytime soon.
And this legislation passed in Northern Ireland, did it not? Before the Stormont Assembly fell
Yeah,
apart.
and because it was part of how it all fell apart was
Yeah.
the DUP, I think, were adding amendments and
Yeah,
stuff.
they tried to spike it.
Aye. So for me, I just thought they've not got a devolved government. They've got no sign of getting one.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way that I am in Westminster, because whether I like it or not, Scotland voted to stay part of this system.
Yep.
So I'm respecting that. I'm trying to make
Mm-hmm.
it better. Then Northern Ireland's also still part of this system.
Mm-hmm.
And as this system stands, they seem okay with Westminster, being able to
Yeah.
make legislation for them. And right now, we know that women are suffering in Northern Ireland through lack of healthcare, through lack
Yeah.
of opportunity. The fact that I wouldn't be able to get married if I went over to Northern Ireland. If I'm in a position where I can help fix that, then I'd rather do that rather than
Absolutely.
abstaining for
And I think
some kind of arbitrary argument.
like a theoretical thing.
Yeah.
I think as well, like, as we were talking in relation to WASPy, like, there is an onus on you to make a positive contribution to UK politics. And I think, as much as I totally respect the stance on devolved matters to and from, I think there are moral issues that sometimes, if you're in that position, you just have to stand up. And
Well, that was
given
what
your
my
own
take on it
personal
was, aye.
circumstances, I can completely get that. I think, like we were talking earlier on about you can't, you can't win either way.
Aye.
Is that you just got a lot of criticism as well the SNP are not going to vote on this devolved matter, and you're like, well, the SNP never
Yeah.
vote on devolved matters, barring obviously the one exception prior to that. And then you step out that and go, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And you
How
then
dare
open
you?
yourself to the criticism of, oh, guys, hypocrites. You know what I mean?
Aye.
It's like, so
But
you
that's-
can't win either way.
Like that though, when I was thinking about what I was going to do, when I knew fine well, folk was like,
course.
how you voted on something devolved. Yeah, but do you know what? It might help save a life.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
Because it's not worth folk being harmed while folk play politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I get how important playing politics is,
Yeah.
but it's, remember what's really important.
As
There's folk
actual
suffering
people's
there.
lives.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If
I think it's as well, like, it's such a normalised thing now. I mean, we're not in the 70s anymore where people were afraid to come out or be out, like, people should be able to celebrate and express their lives together however they see fit, as far as I'm concerned. Moving on for that, and we kind of talked off mic, was that we have danced around sort of gender issues
Yeah.
and sexuality and stuff like that, but again, as it's no our personal experience, it's been a bit of a tough one to, like,
yeah, to crack.
to kind of get into and no sound like idiots.
Both
in a
so
sense.
straight.
Aye,
That's
no,
it.
aye.
Both so
How
straight.
dare white
tweet.
cis men
First tweet, aye.
speak about anything?
Neither of the two guys even get makeup on. Like, oh, okay, sorry. But you waded in last week with mean tweets in relation to the GRA.
The GRA, yeah.
Now, the GRA is it Gender Recognition
Yeah,
Act?
the Gender Recognition Act.
And this is about, well, broad strokes is about people who self-identify, or this seems to be the biggest crux, the
Well,
sticking point that I've
What-
come across.
What this is the Gender Recognition Act was 2004, I believe,
Mm-hmm,
came into force. And under that, you can, that was the legislation that made sure that if you were trans, you could change your birth certificate and everything. Because folk,
okay.
folk don't realise as well that one of the issues for trans people as well is if they can't get all their formal documents to be, matching who they are,
Yeah.
then it also has problems for things like pensions, for inheritance, for all different factors. Because you think
And
how
that makes perfect sense,
systems
but I've
have
never
to work,
considered it,
and you're
aye.
going, wait a second, who's
Aye.
so it is a
Passports,
problem.
driver's licenses.
So a lot of the things like passports and things, they can already change
Right.
the name, but it's the official documentation, like
Birth
you basically get a
certificate.
new birth certificate. But the hoops that trans folk have to jump through are horrible just now, and they're also unjustifiable. Because when you accept, like Westminster, the Women and Equalities Committee did a report on this not that long ago, and of course I'm a geek, I sat and read the whole thing. Anybody who reads through all the evidence, it's clear that there is nothing to support the hoops that they have to jump through just now. For instance, they have to be diagnosed with gender dysphoria, which is it's basically extreme distress because a disconnect between
Yeah.
how you view yourself and the physical reality. But the example that I give, it's like saying that every gay person has to have anxiety. It's like, well, yes, you can have anxiety because of the
Yeah.
homophobic world that we live in,
Yeah.
but it's not.
It's not being gay.
Aye,
It's not
exactly.
a prerequisite, yeah.
So it's the same with trans. Not every trans person experiences
Body
gender dysphoria,
Okay.
but they identify as trans. So basically, what the international best practice now is in like Ireland, Malta, Denmark, all these places, is a basis of self-ID, where instead of having to go and get all these doctors' letters, be diagnosed with things, and you have to live for 2 years in your chosen identity and stuff like that. All these hoops. Instead of that, you go in front of a justice of the peace and sign a legal document stating your intention to live as you are.
Okay.
And if you're found to do that on a fraudulent basis, I think it's 2 years in jail automatically. Now, none of the places that got self-ID have had, guys like yourself going, I'm now trans, so I
Yeah.
can go into a woman's toilet
This
and
is-
start.
So
And-
this is the argument that's getting made against it. It's ridiculous. isn't it?
So, and I can appreciate that if folk thinking that, and I can appreciate folk being genuinely, worried and getting themselves worked up. But take a chill pill, breathe a second. What's stopping a guy doing that just now? What? There's nothing.
No.
If it's going to happen, unfortunately, it's
It'll
going to happen.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to clamp down on sexual offences or anything remotely like that is by focusing on the perpetrators and by saying, oh, but they might be able to hide as trans as a reason to justify all trans people. No, that doesn't hold water. That's
Yeah.
not okay.
I think as well that we need to understand the fact that we didn't just invent trans people a couple of weeks ago. Like they've
Exactly.
always been there. Like they've always been using these public facilities.
Well, this is-
is a really small,
Aye.
almost infinitesimal
And this is
population
the thing
percentage
that,
as well.
that I think is really, really being missed here, is that the reforms that we're talking about is literally just changing that process of getting a GRC, it's called the Gender Recognition
Yep.
Certificate. That's all.
Okay.
The thing that deals with single-sex spaces is actually the Equality Act, which was 2010. So if you're arguing that trans people should be excluded from single-sex spaces, you're arguing that you want to remove rights that trans people have had for
Yeah.
years
9
now.
years, whatever.
And even before that, all the women's organisations, Women's Aid, Rape Scotland, all of this, they're all operating on a self-ID basis and have done for years
Yeah.
because they recognise that trans women in particular often experience exactly the same horrors as many cis women do coming
Yeah.
out their door. And I find that it's quite telling the sort of subtle misogyny, I think, behind this, and that many folk with concerns aren't appreciating that they're almost looking at this with tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Because it's just, this doesn't fit what I know to be normal.
Yeah.
It's like, well, exactly, that's what we're wanting you to step out of.
I have
essentially.
to reconsider what you think is
Because
normal.
with what they're doing just now, by making it like, I don't want trans folk, I don't want anybody with a penis in the women's toilets.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if I go in a toilet and a woman goes, you can't be here?
Right.
How no?
This is a straight toilet or whatever.
This is for women. I'm a woman. Prove it.
This is an English toilet.
Which one to do? So it's
English
all-
and Scottish toilets.
and you never hear anyone worried about trans men because there's this subtle idea underneath that women can't be dangerous or that women can't do wrong or that women
Yeah.
are always the victim. No, it's not. People are fundamentally people. They're good, they're bad. They sometimes make mistakes, all sorts. But fundamentally, it's people. Now, yes, we recognise trends with, well, why is it more women experience this than that? Of course, you'd be stupid to ignore these trends, but it's about trying to understand, well, actually, what relates all these? And for me, what relates them all is this idea of the patriarchy. Because the point that I make is, as a feminist, I do support trans people because I see the patriarchy in this very heterosexual binary world
Yep.
as affecting every different group or every different identity differently, whether it be lesbians, butchered lesbians feeling really insecure around guys, feeling the need to macho up in order to they feel threatened by guys, or you get, straight guys who suddenly feel that they can't talk about their emotions
Yeah.
and mental health issues. So we see how this patriarchy actually has
Impacts
detrimental
almost
effects on
everybody.
everybody. And that's what I want to unpick, because do you know what? There are some boys that just want to wear dresses.
Yeah, which is
Let
cool.
them.
Or just want to be, even at like a simpler level, just want to be emotional, like, and they don't feel that they can be or like express emotion because they need to
Yep.
be like a man and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And when you
it's
touched on the sort of feminism point, that's your sentiment is maybe no one that's widely shared, because as I've tried to come to grips with notions of gender and
Yeah.
sexuality and stuff like that, as we've been reading and researching, I made the mistake of starting my research on Twitter. So I did.
God bless you.
I just was like, I'll follow a few people in the field and see what pops up, and then work out for there, sort of thing.
So you didn't leave the house for 3 days.
Yeah, what ended up was with like 15 people on my Twitter feed who just spammed it up constantly, shouting about TERFs and whatever else the terminologies are. And this is where I get confused on it, and I think maybe some other people are sharing in this confusion, is that in principle, I've absolutely no beef with anybody being who they are. Totally off for it. Go be you.
Yep.
One life. Get on about it. But like, at the same time, when somebody says they're encroaching on female spaces, I can go, well, do you know what? I probably can see a level, a point there. I might not fully agree with it, but I can get why maybe that's your stance.
Yeah.
Somebody else is saying, oh, well, what about women's sport? And these are like really niche things. But at the same time, there's people out there where I can go, because I don't have a horse in the race, I probably can see that there are tiny elements of everybody's arguments that are valid, but I don't get why there's no meat in the middle when it's largely, as you say, this feminist issue. You know what I mean?
Well, with most things in politics, there's usually sinister forces at work behind the scenes. So there's always a million and one factors as to why one issue is being suddenly forced to the spotlight. So I've no doubt that's going on with this. But I think also there has to be more compassion on both sides, I think. And that, like, I was having a conversation with a woman who had all these concerns, and we were sitting talking through them, and I was answering her, and she was saying, right, but whenever I do ask a question, I just get shouted down and called transphobe and stuff like that. And I say, aye, that's not right, because people need to learn, they need to educate themselves, and sometimes you have to give people the space to ask the ignorant questions in order to educate themselves.
Absolutely.
And that's absolutely fine. But it's when you don't listen to the answers that I've got a problem. But then on top of that, there's also, just to confuse matters further, is that trans people clearly have very difficult lives at this moment in time.
Yeah.
They're enduring so much hatred in their everyday life, a multitude of struggles. So see, when somebody comes along and goes, I don't think you should have a right to exist, of course they're going to react.
Of course.
You know,
And rightfully so.
that's not to justify bad language or anybody slagging anybody else off or calling folk names, but you have to appreciate where somebody's coming from and
Totally.
things. So in the same way I can appreciate that people are coming from some sincere places, but asking some things where you're like, oh my God, that's worded horrific. But right, we've got a lot of work to do here, but okay, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
I think that there has to be more of that from both sides.
Yeah,
but
I think that'll
be a
definitely-
laugh if we get that.
That's definitely. I mean, one of the questions we were talking again off mic was how do we re-engage people? Because I feel like in Scotland we have less of this, the yellow vests, and we don't have people running down the street in Edinburgh like with their phone asking questions of
Outside
politics,
Holyrood.
harassing people basically in the
Yeah.
street. And I think the SNP post New Labour managed to sort of fill that vacuum, and the working class people in Scotland felt like they had a voice, whereas in England it's been filled up by this sort of alt-right or extreme right, where they've turned to this. And exactly what you just said, I agree 100%, that compassion needs to be brought in. Like if you used to be a private hire taxi driver, and then all of a sudden Uber comes along and wipes away your living. And I mean, I use Uber quite regularly, and the majority of people that are driving Ubers aren't like British nationals or Scottish nationals. I don't have a problem with that, but I can understand why somebody would be like, well, I'm now anti-immigration, but these people get tagged as racists and bigots, and it's almost like you need to understand where this guy's coming from, or at least if somebody is being a bigot, because it is bigoted and it is racist, some of what these people say, you need to ask them the question of like, why do you feel like that?
Totally, aye.
Instead of just going, cancel him,
Yep.
deplatform him, Facebook account, Twitter account, cancel.
I have to say, I do love Lemmy cancelling folk. I'm living for that, you know. But,
He's just joking to get cancelled himself. I think. His posts on IB4 have been something.
They've
Been something else. But that compassionate element is just been completely and utterly eroded by the anonymity of the internet, I think.
the example that I give to folk is whenever I start this sentence at like, group meetings or public meetings, I can feel the whole room going, oh my God, where are you going with this? But like, see, for instance, if I was in Liverpool and I'd been working since I was 16, I'd made sure I paid my way, I've been on the housing list forever, and I've been waiting for ages and ages, done everything by the book, and then the one house that does come up, it ends up going to a refugee, for instance.
Okay.
I can get why that guy's like, hold on, I've been doing everything right. But that's where I think it's the job of politicians or just good people to point out to that person, do you know what, you have every right to be angry, but you're not angry at that person. You're angry at the fact that they're not building enough houses.
It's the system that's the problem.
And I think it's sometimes you just need to actually point that out for it to click in somebody's head and go, oh, right, okay.
Yep.
And I think often because folk find comfort in going, I take nothing to do with politics. No, I don't. They're all a shower of bastards.
Yep.
No, I don't listen. I don't read that. Because they're living in that kind of comfort of just insulating themselves from everything, it comes a point where politics hits them and affects their life. And then it's like, well, how do you then you've got that person's attention.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly, you've got their attention, so make sure you fill it with something constructive. Because if not, Farage is waiting in the corner with his fag and his pint, you know, just to jump right in. So I can totally see what's happened with England in particular, because I think you're right, the SNP have provided a bit of an outlet. And I also think part of the thing that helps Scotland is that we've got a different voting system in the Scottish Parliament. So people are getting used to proportional representation, which is totally different to the Westminster thing. So we're still in this sort of middle area where I think people are split up and they're split up into two groups of one that are kind of interested in politics and they're getting that things are changing, and then the other group that are still in that vote Labour to keep out the Tories. Vote Labour to keep out the Tories.
No, there's definitely a lot of that kick.
I'm not reading it. No, vote Labour to keep out the Tories.
That was literally how I convinced my mum to vote for independence, because coming up to the vote in 2014, she was like, listen, I'll be honest, I don't care. I can't. She just couldn't decipher what was going on because she was watching the BBC, she was reading the newspaper, and I said to her, look, I think it was a picture in the newspaper, and it was Alistair Darling and whoever the Tory person that was sent up to Scotland to save us from voting for our own independence. And I said, that is a Labour and a Tory MP standing side by side, hand in hand, telling you not to vote for independence. So I vote for independence as I vote against the Tories. And she went, say no more. That was it. Literally, like, that's it. Cool. I didn't know who that person was.
I'm about to just write that down.
I wish I'd thought that.
Just when I just been like, he's a Tory, he's a Tory, he's a Tory. We're like, I mean, how are we doing on time? We need to wrap.
Right.
Okay. So, where would you want to go with?
I think universal.
Well, we'll go with this, right? So we've got a list of questions here, but we're like the rise of AI. We're seeing people, I mean, I was just talking about Uber there, that's literally like just wiping jobs off the board. I was listening to a podcast the other day, it was saying that AI will probably take the place of a GP in like 15, 20 years. So you won't go and see your GP, you'll actually put your symptoms into something and it'll print out a wee script for you. Do you think that the sort of universal basic income, like the Andrew Yang, like the that sort of thing, is an actual workable solution?
Not yet, but just because I don't think there's enough solid evidence to really prove the point. Because I'm interested in that. I think there's a lot of merit to a citizen's income, and it creates quite a good culture, actually. The exact opposite of what you would think.
Yeah, people expect it to be
Yeah.
like the welfare, so that's sort of
Aye,
like
just
everybody's just going to sit about and smoke
doing
weed and
nothing,
do
aye.
nothing. But I think that we're seeing right now is evidence that people don't have a purpose.
Well,
And this is what's
exactly.
important to people. So
Exactly.
we've been told that it's work and it's labour and you should go to work. And if you don't work, then
You're
you're a
the
scrounger.
problem, aye.
But in actual fact, I think it's you need a purpose. You need some kind of outlet.
Yep.
You need to spend your energy in a productive way and you'll feel good about yourself. And this is what guys like Yang are saying, is that if we give people that money, it gives them the platform to maybe be a photographer
Yeah.
and maybe go and do their passion and not necessarily end up in a call centre or whatever it is that they hate.
Yeah,
Like,
I think as
exactly.
well,
40 hours a week.
when we have to consider these types of things, I know you've been pretty vocally opposed to things like universal credit, and we had a previous guest, Alex Tiffin, who is a universal credit kind of sufferer. Folk can check him out if they want. I think UBI addresses some of the concerns here because I know you've been pretty vocal about things like rent arrears, like, you know, obviously vulnerability to loan sharking, and you know all the kind of negative impacts that universal credit has
Yeah.
like provably had on the population. I think having this maybe additional
Yeah.
disposable sort of citizens' income, whatever it is, you know, even if it just cuts out the bureaucracy of housing benefit, job seekers, whatever it is, and it's just this, you know, I
Aye.
think there's definitely a way forward there, but I don't know that British politics
Is there yet?
is I don't know that it's ever going to be there. You know,
Well, exactly. Under the system as it stands, I don't think we ever will be there.
No.
And that's where, for me, everything comes back to we need to get out of Westminster.
Yeah.
We need to at least have full control because, all, like I said at the start, all of these problems are linked.
yep,
And fundamentally, most folk just want to have a decent place to live. They know that they've got food and enough money to enjoy themselves at the weekend,
yep,
and enough to maybe go on a holiday once a year.
yep.
That's it.
It's not a lot.
You know, and I just do not believe that we can't make that a reality for everybody. And when you start to analyse why it's not a reality for everybody, you see just how basically fucked the system is
Yeah.
right now as
How
it's
hampered
getting
yous are.
designed. It's just, you know, you manage to make progress, but then you've got another problem here because this legislation did it, and it's, no, we can't do anything meaningful until we have total control over everything, because fundamentally it all comes back to economics as well, and that's where, when you're talking about artificial intelligence, I think we've got a hell of a big problem coming down the road, and nobody seems to be paying it much attention. And what do we do once robots are able to
Yeah.
do our jobs? And who then controls the robots? And then who owns the labour of the robots? So who makes the profits off of that? Does that all go to the one person who owns the company? Because then what is the point of having an economy if we can't learn?
Yep.
So it's pretty, yeah. I don't think we're going to solve it in one
No, I don't
podcast.
think so.
There seems to be quite a lot of, I mean, there was a lot of like talk about just give people the house
Yeah.
and give people the food, but and rely on charity rather than just giving people the money and the means of which and teach them how to manage their money type
Aye.
thing. But aye, we've run out of time, so thanks very much for coming in. It's
Well,
been,
thanks for having
Really
me.
appreciate it.
it's been
Hopefully
awesome.
bye.
The political fanboy on me is like absolutely buzzing. So it's been nice.
Well, seeing you've never met me before.
But
Well,
no,
hopefully we'll do it again sometime.
You're on.
cheers, thank you.
Lightning falls when there is panic in the sky. Thunder calls when all but fear is left to die. You it's fantasy, something that you're never going to be. Same old story every day. There's just one thing that I have to say, that if we believe, if we trusted you, then I don't know why you say the things you do. You'd see a whole new way to be, giving honest answers and not those lies to me. Empty halls now filled with echoes of their past. On our stars they lived each day like it's their last. You tell it like it's fantasy, something that you're never going to be. Same old story every day. There's just one thing that I have to say, that if we believe, if we trusted you, then I don't know why you say the things you do. You'd see a whole new way to be, giving honest answers and not those lies to me. I can tell that you're on a mission just to break the walls down time and time again. If it wasn't true, would it be okay to break the walls down time and time again? That if we believe, if we trusted you, then I don't know why you say the things you do. You'd see a whole new way to be, giving honest answers and not those lies to me. Believe, if we trusted you, then I don't know why you say the things you do. You'd see a whole new way to be, giving honest answers and not those lies to me.